resellers, they're retailers, they're wholesalers, distributors, they're multinational companies. So from a size standpoint, we work with entrepreneurs looking for their first product, inventors looking to create their first product, to multinational companies, looking for different sourcing solutions and streamlining their production capabilities. And in terms of products, what kind of products are people sourcing? We have a ton of products on our site. I'll give you an example of that. But it's existing products, it's new products, it's trending products. If you guys caught a morning session with Brian, he talked a little bit about fidget spinners and how they're trending right now. And all of a sudden, people are sourcing a whole bunch of them by putting their label on it or customizing it, and they're selling it. These are quick products that people can bring to market and sell quickly. And you can certainly do a lot of those, and you can find those products on Alibaba. And in terms of products, some of the top sourced products in the US are consumer electronics, is what we find, apparel, beauty, and healthcare. Those are usually the top 3 categories that we're seeing quite a bit of. But at the same time, let's talk a little bit about what are some of the growth categories that we're seeing year over year in Alibaba.com. So again, a lot of trade happens, a lot of products on our site. Year over year, we're seeing a lot of products such as shoes and accessories, packaging and printing, consumer electronics, toys and hobbies. We're also seeing a shift in how people are trading on our platform. It's no longer industrial. It's no longer massive amount of products. We're seeing a huge increase in small and medium enterprises sourcing products in smaller quantities, but much more frequently. They're looking for products that are market shelf ready. They're looking for products that they don't have to do a lot of customizations on, that they can get and start selling, whether it's through e-commerce, their brick and mortars, or their Amazon storefront. So that's what we're seeing quite a bit of. And when you see things like shoes and accessories, it's products such as custom laces, custom shoes. Packaging and printing is custom packaging. Consumer electronics, we're seeing a lot of accessories being produced in the IoT, the Internet of Things, where things will work with existing products that people may have in their homes, such as Amazon Echo or Google Home. These are products that are Bluetooth, Wi-Fi capable, that can work with things that people already have in their homes. So, just perspective, and also if you're an SME looking to get into business, or thinking about, hey, what product category should I really think about on Alibaba or for Alibaba? This would be a good start, I'd say. So, moving forward, what are we? We're at Alibaba.com. We're SME focused, and we try to make that overall sourcing part easier for our buyers. We provide a lot of sourcing tools such as RFQ, which is a request for a quote, which simplifies the overall process of searching for a product. There's millions and millions of products on our site. We have 2.5 million storefronts with hundreds of thousands of products on each of them. So there's a lot of things there. But with things like RFQ, it simplifies it with a simple form where you simply just fill out a request of what you're looking for with all the details. You submit it, and Alibaba screens the request and does the vetting for you. And then you can receive up to 10 quotes within 24 hours. Simple as that. We also have trade services such as trade assurance. You may have heard a little bit about that throughout the day, and we'll get more detail into it, how it works. But basically, it's a way to protect your products. It's a way to protect your goods and your payment to your supplier you work with for absolutely free. We don't charge our buyers for this. All you have to do is just look for a trade assurance supplier when you're using Alibaba.com, and you can rest assured that your product's going to be secured in case something goes wrong. We also have safe payment options for trade assurance. You can pay with a credit card, like you're used to paying, when you're using B2C sites. You can pay with telegraphic transfer, bank transfers, and your product quality is protected, and your product shipment is protected. What that means is, if something is wrong with the product that you ordered from a supplier, and again, this is more on the business-to-business side, you create a purchase order and you submit that purchase order. So in case something's wrong with the product quality and it doesn't match the purchase order, you can file a dispute and get your money back. Or if the shipment is delayed, let's say it was supposed to be shipped on May 21st, but it wasn't, they missed the deadline, you can get your money back by filing a dispute. And again, this is a way to help build trust between small and medium enterprises and their suppliers overseas. Moving forward a little bit, I'm going to try to put this in perspective just a little bit. We talk a lot about SMEs, and today, Jack spoke a little bit about the importance of SMEs, and last night he also said, it doesn't matter how small or how big you are. Alibaba's here to help work with you as a buyer. So I'm gonna walk through a quick scenario, and we're gonna use Susie as our sort of a case study here. Now Susie is a young born entrepreneur. From the very young age, she always finds opportunities to figure out different ways to make money, right? Who doesn't? We all have that sort of a bug that we want to start our own business. Well, she has a business idea that she wants to source custom T-shirts. And she's going to Camp Fury, and she wants to make sure she has them in time so that she can sell them to everyone that's going to be in the camp with her there. But how does she get started, right? So she searches for custom T-shirts online, and she ends up on Alibaba.com. Again, this is what the homepage typically looks like when you come to Alibaba.com. There's a lot of different things there. There's a search bar. There's My Markets. There's also a category which is hidden by the logo up there. And then, it talks a little bit about trade assurance. But the most familiar thing to Susie here is a search bar. So she simply types in women's custom T-shirts and hits search. Now, upon doing that, she ends up at over 160,000 products. Now, that's a lot to go through, right? But, one thing is for sure that she can find a manufacturer for a custom T-shirt online, and Alibaba can essentially help provide that. But, while there's a lot of product categories that pop up and, listings, this can be overwhelming. So another way somebody can search for products on our site is to simply use the category bar that's on the home page. So that's on the top left. And when you go down, you'll see lots of different categories. So in this case, since we're looking for custom T-shirts, Susie will select apparel, women's clothing, and then custom T-shirts. Or just T-shirts in this case, since she's already on women's clothing. And once doing that, she comes back to another product listing page. Now in this case, there were about 140,000 products that showed up. So still a lot. But one thing that she notices is, there's this product category section on the left, and there's a lot of different things she can use here to narrow her search down. Everything from colors to features to even the supplier that she can select, their location, their types, their certification. So from the filtering standpoint, you can really narrow down your product searches to see exactly what you're looking for, and it makes that selection filtering a little bit easier. So let's say Susie did all that. She'll come back to about 12 products. And that's much easier to go through than 160,000 products or 140,000 products. And in this case, she's looking at things like colors, features, fabrics, materials, what kind of color it's going to be. She's also looking at the type of supplier. Now we talked a little bit about trade assurance. In this case, you don't have a lot of resources when you're 10 years old, so you want to make sure your money's protected. And whether you're borrowing that from mom or dad, or you've saved up for the last 2 years for this, she definitely wants to make sure she's working with a trade assurance supplier so that she's covered in case something goes wrong. Now, after doing all that, we know that there's 3 ways to search for a product. You can search, you can use product categories, but then in the beginning I had talked about request for quotes. Now Susie could have simply just filled out this request as well. And this is where Alibaba can filter down all the product details for you and send your request directly to suppliers who can actually make that product. So how that works is, it's a simple form that you fill out. It takes no more than 5 minutes to fill out. This is what the form looks like. It's intuitive as well, because it'll tell you, hey, make sure you include things such as quantity, list out different things such as features you're looking for, colors, all the things that you would normally drill down anyways when you're filtering. And when you can also upload images. And this is really great if you're an inventor, if you're an entrepreneur looking to create a brand new product. Now, you can either go through various product categories that exist today and work with suppliers that can create something that you're looking to create, or you can fill out an RFQ here, a request for a quotation, and attach videos, renderings, mock-ups, blueprints of what you're looking to build. And it can help the suppliers really understand what you're looking for. And doing this, again, takes 5 minutes, and once you submit it, you usually get 10 quotes within 24 hours. So as simple as that. So Susie could have also done that in getting what she was looking for. Now, once we've done all that, next comes samples. Now it's important that you focus on the quality of the product before you select your supplier. So the rule of thumb typically, from what we see is, product quality is obviously always at the top concern for every buyer. Then it comes down to communication, trust, what kind of payments they accept, logistics. We're looking for an end-to-end solution most of the times when we're just getting into it, because we're used to that B2C experience where we can add something to a cart and get it shipped. B2B is a little bit different, but at Alibaba, we're really trying to make that process simple. And we're trying to make that process easy in a way where you don't have to spend months looking for a product or supplier. By going to trade show, we're making that process simpler. So in this case, ordering sample is also easy. Whether you've found the product through going through various filtering options, you can hit start order and get a sample from there. And getting a sample basically means sometimes your supplier will make you pay for shipping and they'll send you the sample for free, or you can pay for the sample and then they'll compensate you, when you place the actual order with them. Or when you're using that RFQ form, it's also in there as well. Some other things to notice down here, this is an actual screenshot from a product listing page. You have things like trade assurance, and what does that protect? Payment protection, on-time protection, product quality protection, but it also lists out different payments that they accept. In this case, it's Visa, MasterCard, telegraphic transfer, or bank transfer with e-checking. So it has all of that information on there already. And the other good thing about Alibaba is, a lot of the visibility of supplier, their capabilities, are listed on the website for you. And this really helps you get a clear picture of who you're going to be working with and what kind of capabilities do they have. So in this case, now, ordering a sample is also simple. She says starts order, and she'll order her sample, or whether the supplier says you're going to pay for it or not, she does that. And then after that, it really comes down to choosing a supplier. So typically, you'll pick your top 5 suppliers, you'll speak with them, you'll choose up to 3 suppliers, and then order samples from them. And then in terms of choosing the right supplier, it'll come down to the quality of samples, trade assurance, whether they accept trade assurance or not, the various payment options they accept, and then also responsiveness, how responsive they are. And that really will help you determine, what the right supplier for you is. And again, that criteria could be different for you versus, Susie in this case. But trade assurance, let's talk about that a little bit more. It really comes down to us making that transaction easier, but at the same time, it really goes down to building trust. Now, one of the things that I love about working for Alibaba is, I get a chance to meet a lot of small and medium enterprises and businesses who are just starting out, whether it's through trade shows, whether it's through events like this, and it usually comes down to, hey, Sunny, how do I trust someone who's like halfway across the world, and how do I send money to them? I've heard a lot of stories where my friends or people that I know, they've been burned. How do I make sure that doesn't happen to me? And there's a lot of things that you can do as due diligence to ensure that you're making sure you're taking the proper precautions to ensure you're working with the right supplier. We're going to have a great group of panelists in just a little bit here, and they're going to share their experiences with you guys and how they chose their supplier and how they were able to grow their business. But trade assurance was actually launched about just over 2 years ago. And it was launched for that specific purpose, because we've heard from small and medium enterprises, and if the trust was the issue, we wanted to put something in place that can help small and medium enterprises build trust with their partners. And by ensuring that your payment is protected in case something goes wrong, again, as long as you're following the proper procedure with purchase order, or if the shipment is delayed, you can get your money back from Alibaba. And we're backing these suppliers up. It really helps create that bridge between a buyer and a supplier. And that's what trade assurance essentially has to do. The other good thing about trade assurance is it forces you to take all the right steps, which means you're working with your supplier online. It makes you open a purchase order online. It'll ask you, hey, do you want to order samples? Something that you may not think about. It requires you to do an inspection in case something goes wrong, or something sometimes people just don't think about. It ensures that you're logging in payment details. It ensures that the supplier is logging in the logistic details when they ship your product out. So it's a true end-to-end solution in helping you transact safely. So with products like trade assurance, what we're essentially doing for SMEs like Susie, who's a young entrepreneur, we can have her focusing on selling her T-shirt, but at the same time growing her business. It really comes down to focusing on your business first, and because that takes a lot of time and effort to scale. And if you can take the product sourcing element and make that simpler, that's essentially what we help SMEs do. So a little bit more in terms of how we're reducing friction in global trade. So anybody can use our platform. And the example with Susie was really to kind of show that, hey, even a 10-year-old can come to our site and use it, and it's simple. But the ease of search doesn't necessarily downgrade the products and the services that we have and the suppliers that we have on our site. Later on, we're going to have a couple of suppliers that came here from China, and we're going to be able to get an actual perspective from these suppliers. And you'll get an opportunity to hopefully ask them questions if you have time remaining in how you can work with suppliers and what sort of things you as a buyer should be asking the right questions. So ease of search is really what it's all about. Trustworthy relationships, that's another big one, right? I mean, trade assurance we talked about, but Alibaba's been around since 1999. US has been our key buying market since we started. And obviously, if you were here last night and this morning, Alibaba has certainly grown quite a bit since 1999. And as we've grown, our platform has also evolved quite a bit. Trade assurance is an example of that, but even in terms of using the website, there's a lot of information that we provide using big data. Now, we see a lot of import and export on our site. So there's a ton of data that we're seeing. But from a supplier standpoint, we have visibility of what they're shipping out. And we have visibility of how big their companies are, who their main markets are, who they're speaking with. So if you're using a supplier on Alibaba, you can actually click on their business profile page. You can see different things such as, hey, do they have research and development capabilities? What are their main markets? Who are they really selling to out there? How big is their staff? Do they have images and videos of their factories? Do they have third-party assessed reports that I can download? And maybe I'm looking for something specific, such as organic cotton. Do they have the material infrastructure to handle that? You can also gauge that, hey, am I going to be able to work with the supplier 2-3 years down the line when I get bigger, hopefully? And are they still going to be able to accommodate my request? All of that is visible to you without you having to pick up your phone or sending an email out. That's all right there. It's visibility. And that's, in a way, helping you build trust with your suppliers, because that's important. Now, lastly, secure payments and logistics. That's also important, right? Because we're seeing more and more small and medium enterprises come to our site, and they're looking for an end-to-end solution. And what that means is they're looking for one platform where they can not only search for a product, customize that product, get customized packaging for their product, get it shipped here so it's ready to be hung on pegs or hung on shelves. But at the same time, they want to get it here from point A to point B without having them do extra work. So payments and logistics are usually a big element of that. How do I get my products from point A to point B? And logistics is usually one of the top concerns for a lot of smaller businesses. So we have suppliers who can help you take care of all of that. And the two suppliers, Eddie and Rin, who we have here later, they can certainly elaborate more on that in terms of how they work with businesses of all sizes for that specific need. But at Alibaba, trade assurance, another reason that we created trade assurance is that logistics can be simplified. And when your supplier is shipping something out to you, the details of that shipment is listed online so that you can track it. Payments are also there in terms of you simply wanting to use your credit card or bank transfer, but all of that's listed. So you're not sending Western Union directly to your supplier. You're working with your supplier with an online platform where everything is listed that you trust, and that purchase order, that contract is built online. So from an overall perspective of using the website, that was basically it. I mean, in terms of how you can use Alibaba.com and what the real goal is. And as we're moving forward, our goal is to continue to expand our products and our services to cater to today's small and medium enterprises. and really help localize. You guys are here. I'm sure you guys attended other seminars. Where there was the opportunity to sell to China. We're talking about buying from China. But at the end of the day, it's really about, as Jack Ma said this morning, it's about globalization, right? And our goal really is to help enable you as small and medium enterprises to really get not only your business started, but also scale and help you really see that global potential. So, to segue to the next panel discussion that we're going to have right after this is, we love small and medium enterprise stories here. Now, if you had a chance to, did we all get a chance to go to the marketplace and talk to some of these? Everyone? Okay, perfect. So you might have seen the next three panelists. I'm going to bring up in just a moment there, but their stories are really great. I mean, some of them we've been working since 2006 when our platform was really small, and they all started with an idea, and they saw a need for an idea. They saw a need for a product, and said, you know what? I'm gonna just challenge the status quo and see if I can get a product made. They stumbled on Alibaba one way or the other, found a way to find a manufacturer, get their business created, and now they're running successful businesses. Now we see a ton of these stories. If you caught the afternoon session earlier in Theater 4, Brian Wong shared a couple of stories. One is Panda Planner. If you did, definitely Google and search them. They're successfully selling a planner that essentially is scientifically proven to make you happy, and is, if you're dealing with hardships and mental stress, this planner really helps put things in perspective. But the entrepreneur, Michael Lee, got his start with Alibaba. He had an idea in his head, and basically went to Alibaba, worked with a supplier, and now this product has almost 5-star rating from over 6,000 reviews on Amazon. So just another way where you can source a product from Alibaba and resell it on a lot of existing B2C sites such as Amazon. Another example of that is Gandy's Footwear. This is a UK-based, fashion-driven flip-flop brand, but it started with 2 orphans. They lost their parents in the tsunami back in the mid-2000s, and they decided to create a flip-flop brand called Gandy's, and it's Orphans for Orphans. So they sell their flip-flops, and with the funds that they receive, they're building shelters in countries like China and Africa. And it's just a good message in terms of giving back. But we love small business stories like this. And the 3 panelists that are going to come up next they all have their own stories. So we'll have them come up and share that with you. First panelist is Abington Welch. She's the CEO and founder of the Abington Company. And Abington saw a need for, she's a female pilot, and she saw that the market was missing aviator watches designed for women. All she was finding were really masculine, male-driven watches, and she said, I'm a female pilot, and I want something that's designed for women. So that was her moment, and in terms of generating the idea, and the Abington Company was formed. And that was back in 2006. So since then, she's grown the company to a whole new level. She was featured on the Shark Tank a few years ago as well. She has a great story in terms of how she's been able to grow her business. So let's welcome Abington up to the stage. All right, our next entrepreneur is AJ Forsyth, who's the co-founder of iCrack. Now, iCrack is one of the largest cell phone repair service. But the idea really started with AJ breaking his iPhone way too many times. I think we've all been there. And he said, well, instead of paying $200 every single time to repair my phone, I think I can fix it. So he started sourcing parts from China. And upon sourcing parts, he said, hey, this could be an actual business. So him and his co-founder started the company back in 2011. And since then, they've grown the company to a global chain. And they have actual techs in over 600 cities across the world. And he was listed as Forbes top 30 under 30 as well. So AJ, come on up. And our final panelist is Joe Rovell. And Joe was recently featured on an Alibaba and CNBC co-produced show, Top of Stardom. and which was a show similar to Shark Tank, where entrepreneurs compete in a show with their ideas, and the winner gets the cash prize. Joe won the show; he was featured on, by the way. But his idea was simple. He wanted to simplify the way wine delivery works from a mail standpoint. And he noticed that in the UK, you can't really ship a bottle of wine, and it doesn't really fit through the typical mailbox in a residential home, which is usually this, and we all know a wine bottle's around. So he decided to customize a wine bottle, and Garçon Wines was created. So Joe, on up. Give me 1 second. We started so quickly, I left my notes on my seat. But we don't need the notes, we know what we're talking about. So, as we're talking about small and medium enterprises, I think all three of these panelists will tell a great story in terms of what it really takes to take an idea and turn it into reality and into a successful business. So I'm going to start with, and again, this is a question for all of you, but I'm going to start with Abington first. Tell us a little bit about your business and what motivated you to start it.
Sure. So back in 2006, I was learning how to fly. I got my pilot's license at 22 years old, and I decided as a graduation gift to gift myself an aviator's watch. There's three things that every good pilot has. It's a watch, it's a good pair of sunglasses, and a headset. And I had the other two, so I just needed a watch. But they didn't make anything for women at the time. So it turned out that a lot of my fellow female pilots also had been looking for years, hadn't found anything. It does make sense. We are only 6% of the aviation industry. Women make up a very, very small group. So there wasn't a watch company that saw a market. And for 50,000 customers, it's really a small market. So we said, well, to heck with that, let's just make our own watch. And we did. 11 months later, I launched with two styles, the Jackie and the Amelia. And since that happened, November 3rd, 2007, now we're at 10 years later, a lot of our customers are saying, we don't have anything in the dive world, really. It's only pink and purple. We don't have anything in the car racing industry or the equestrian or the sailing. We're hunters, we're outdoors women. We want something that's really strong, that will hold up, that's not going to break if we're doing the dishes. So what we started coming out with was more adventurous watches for adventurous women.
That's great. So it started with aviator, but it's grown to a lot more than that.
Yeah.
Fantastic. AJ?
Absolutely. My name is AJ Forsyth. I'm the CEO of a company called iCracked. Before I tell you about what we're doing, I'm going to need everyone to stand up, get the blood flowing a little bit. Let's stand up. And then, given that we can. So, given that Alibaba's connecting the world through trade, you have to hug a good bear hug someone that you don't know around you. That's just a way of saying hello. So let's get some good hugs.
How are you?
All right, so that should be the blood flow. So I started this company called iCracked with my co-founder Anthony 7 years ago because I kept breaking my phone. I started a winery prior. I ran a beekeeping operation, and it was this series of lifestyle businesses where I had this need, and so I started fixing my phone, fixing my friends' phones, and it turned into this if we can systemize smartphone repair, what can that do for the U.S.? And so we currently have around 3,000 technicians in the U.S. and Japan, where anytime you break your device, raise your hand if you've ever broken your smartphone before. All right, raise your hand if you have a broken phone right now. Awesome. And it's not awesome that you broke it, but awesome that we can solve that. And so we built this company where anywhere in the U.S. you put on a request on iCracked.com and we send someone to you, to your home, office, coffee shop, and repair your device. But it's all about this idea that technology should be easy and you shouldn't have to find all these crazy solutions on how to fix your problems. And so we want to build this world where anytime technology is not working for you, you press a button and we show up and solve that. And so we've been working with Alibaba for 7 years now. We work with about 40 different suppliers in Asia Pac. and they've been instrumental in us being able to build a supply chain that is creating thousands of American jobs fixing phones. So, like, thank you, Alibaba. Thank you for having us here. But like, you guys are awesome.
Thank you.
Hi everyone, my name is Joe Revel. I'm one of the co-founders of Garçon Wines. We are the world's first full-sized bottle of wine which is tough enough and light enough to go through the postal service and thin enough to fit through the letterbox, or as you guys call it, the mailbox. We started because we wanted to make wine delivery more convenient. I joined up to a wine club back in London, but because I worked, I was never at home. It was incredibly frustrating. I kept getting the note from my postman saying, sorry we missed you, you have to go and pick up your box of wine from the wine depot, which was, half an hour walk away. And during the period in the UK, we've seen a real growth through the letterbox products. So you can get razor blades, you can get flowers, you can get chocolates, all directly through your letterbox, so you don't have to be in to take delivery. And I was stood on my doormat one day looking at this note from my postman, and I thought, actually, there was a Graze box. Sorry, there was a Graze box on the doormat. For those of you that don't know, Graze is health food through the letterbox. And I thought to myself, God, wouldn't it be great if we could get a bottle of wine through my door, so I wouldn't have to constantly keep walking to the depot to pick up the wine. It does make me sound a little like an alcoholic. I'm not. I just enjoy my wine. After kind of thinking about it and thinking, well, look, you can't get a bottle of wine through the letterbox. They're cylindrical, and letterboxes they break because they're made of glass and they're incredibly heavy, so they're not very well suited for the postal service. From there, I went and I found my co-founder, and we started to think a little bit more about how we could get a full-size bottle of wine through the letterbox.
Great. And it's interesting that you're saying that the UK is kind of getting into that whole mailbox thing. I think even in the US, there's whether it's ordering things from online, but they're trying to make them as accommodating as possible so they're not left in front of your doorstep. And I think that was one of your fears, that someone's going to take that bottle away, and that's the reason you have to go to the library. You would, yeah.
Unfortunately, yeah, London, if you leave something on the doorstep, it'll be gone in 5 minutes, and it's probably the same in most cities across the world, unfortunately. But yeah, we're trying to address the issue of a time-poor population. All these products that you mentioned, and I mentioned, they're all there to offer an added convenience to a time-poor population. And that's really the market we want to address. Our core market is the quickest growing element of at-home wine drinkers in the UK, and that's the millennial. So they're urban-based, they're time-poor, and they're looking for a convenient option, but they also want to learn about products. They like organic food, or where it's come from, or wine, and they want to be educated.
Right. So, we're talking a lot about products, and even the case study with the t-shirts. Sometimes an idea is just an idea, but bringing it to reality can be pretty tough, right? What advice would you want to give to other entrepreneurs who have an idea, but are still thinking about how do I really bring it to life? What advice would you guys like to give?
So when I started my company, I was 22. I launched it at 23, 11 months later, and I knew nothing about the watch world. I don't come from a father and grandfather and great-grandfather and everybody that's had years and years and centuries of watchmaking, so I had no idea where to begin. So I started with Google. I looked up who made the best watches, which countries made the best watches. Everybody thinks of Switzerland. That's the #1 watch country. Second is Japan. Seiko, Citizen. We've heard of these companies before. They make brilliant watches, and that's what I use in my watches, are Japanese movements. So once I could figure out what are the top 5 countries, I gave myself 5 countries to choose from so I could have a bit of a mix. Then I discovered Alibaba through a Google search on watch manufacturing. And Alibaba.com came up. So at the time, in 2006, 2007, Alibaba was a very basic site compared to what it is now. And there were basically 2 search functions. There was your country and there was your product. So I took my 5 watch countries and I put watches, and I got thousands. But through all of the choices that we're afforded when we search the site, we can really narrow it down by finding out their references, finding out their clients, talking to them through email, over the phone, getting a sense for how they do business. How communicative are they? What did they offer versus what the other guy offers? So we can really start to narrow it down, and a lot of that can just be done through Google. I mean, we can search the heck out of anything. and find out what your market for your product is, that how is it made, where is it made, what type of materials are making. I mean, I know exactly how much of each alloy is in my steel that I use. And you can find those type of things out without having an MBA in watchmaking, or without having an MBA in foundation or lipstick making, or whatever your product is. We have all the tools at our fingertips through Google. So that's what I would say is research, research, research.
You have to know your product.
Know it inside and out, yeah.
Perfect.
So we hired a CFO a couple of years ago because our board was like, hey, you guys need a CFO. And one of the first things that he said was like, hey, when's the best time to plant a tree? And I was like, I have no idea. He's like, 20 years ago. And then I was like, all right, that makes sense. He's like, now when's the second best time to plant a tree? And I was like, all right, get where you're going with this. And he's like, today. And so the best advice that we had gotten was like, stop making excuses for not doing things. Stop making excuses for not sourcing things or sending 5 more emails or reaching out to 5 more potential customers. And I think that's one of the things that changed our business is we hit this point where there's this like inflection point where we had to go from being just a lifestyle business working out of my living room to like taking ourselves seriously, starting to figure out how to hire people, starting to figure out how to scale, starting to figure out how to build a supply chain, a redundant supply chain in Asia Pac that could service like hopefully tens of thousands of parts. And so like my best advice is like stop making excuses for doing what you can do today. We've been living like that, and we like try to stop putting off what we say we'll do tomorrow, and we try to do it today. But I don't know if that's necessarily wise advice. It's just it's worked for us seemingly.
Yeah, I definitely echo that. I used to be a music promoter. I have no background in wine or bottles or anything like that, and it was literally, I've always had an interest in business and being an entrepreneur, and it was always something I wanted to do. But when I was standing in my flat looking at my doormat, looking at another one of these notes from the postman, I thought, right, I'm actually going to go and do this. It's a problem, and I'm going to go and do it. So I did. I left my job and I just went to go and do it. And it's not always the wisest thing just to leave your job and kind of follow your dream, but it's something that I did, and I'm so happy I did it. It was a hard decision, but it was definitely the right decision. And another thing that I would say as well is it takes time and patience, because we've been going, and we might touch on it later, but we really struggled to make our bottles in the UK. There were so many barriers for us as a small business, whereas China really allowed us to make bottles at a cheap price that was accessible for young entrepreneurs. So we went round and round and round, and we really needed that patience. And honestly, there were so many times where we were going to chuck it in. We thought, let's just hang out, because we put so much investment and time. Sorry, no financial investment, just time investment into this. Let's just try it, and it does just happen, but you just need that patience.
That's great. Can I just get how many of you own your own business today?
Wait, that's so awesome.
That's great. Now, how many of you are selling outside of the U.S.? Okay, that's a good amount. And how many of you are sourcing products from outside of the U.S. today? Got it. Alibaba users? Okay, so nice. So a lot of you guys, seems like you guys are already in the space, and now it's really about scaling your business, which is nice, whether it's globalization or there's something else. So that's really good to hear. And obviously, just like them, they started out, but now they're at a point where they're trying to scale their business up. But I still do want to talk a bit about someone starting their business for the first time. From your perspective, and what are some of the barriers for small businesses today that you can think of?
I'd say probably the biggest barrier is you have no idea what you don't know. And when I attack a new thing, I know everything there is about flying. I can fly an Airbus. I've flown 80 different airplanes. And you put me in an aircraft and I feel at ease. But when I started to learn how to scuba dive, that was a totally different beast. And I just didn't know what I didn't know. And you hear all these stories, and we tend to gravitate towards negative stories. And I think there's a marketing statistics for every 7 good things you hear about a brand or a company, that's about the time that you're ready to purchase. But if you hear one bad thing, those 7 just go out the door. And when it comes to a business, because of the time investment, because of the financial investment, and because of the risk that we have created for this idea of sourcing from other countries or wiring money off through Western Union, which thanks to how you did it, and crossing your fingers and hoping that something's going to arrive in 3 months, 6 months, or however long your lead time is for your product to show up on your doorstep, we have created so many negatives about what could happen, but we don't know that that's what's going to happen. So the biggest thing is, for me, when I started my business, doing the due diligence that was required when I narrowed it down to just a few suppliers. I checked with the Better Business Bureau for those countries that those suppliers were in. I talked to their references. I courted each of these suppliers, each of these distributors for months before I gave over money. And I was self-invested. I didn't have any investors or anything. This was, a $5,000 loan from my dad and the money I made in college, and that was basically it. So I didn't have a lot of money, and I didn't even know if this was going to work. I was just trying to make a few watches for me and my friends. And it ended up being such a, it was so rewarding when you put your trust into a supplier that gives it back. And you've entrusted them with finances, you've entrusted them with your idea that you think everybody in the world is going to copy because it's just the best idea ever. And you're really entrusting that they're going to create something and deliver it to you, and everything's going to go okay. And you just don't know if that's going to happen. But you can only go so far before you have to jump. And if you jump, you can definitely get back up if you fall. It's not the end of the world. Don't ever think that it's the end of the world. Don't ever think that you can't do something because you heard this bad story, or you read this bad article, or you saw, this case study didn't work for these people, and yeah, this was a great commercial. You had a beautiful story about a young girl wanting to make T-shirts, and that's all nice, in the ethereal world. That's not reality. There are a lot of real success stories. There's a lot of people in this room that have successfully used this site and other sites. There's 3 sitting up here talking about how we all jumped and we landed on our feet. So I think that's probably one of the biggest things for businesses, is to just get over that fear and to just jump and establish the trust.
Yeah. But I love the fact that earlier you said you have to know your product, and you have to do your due diligence. So you really make sure that you're taking on things the right way. And again, when you're fully invested in it and you don't really have financial backing or supporters, every dollar counts. You guys, any perspective on that?
Yeah, absolutely. So when we started, the smartphone repair industry was kind of it was just a weird industry 7 months ago. 7 years ago, the iPhone is less than 10 years old. And we were buying parts online, and we were somewhat happy with our suppliers. Weren't happy with they may be able to hit quality, but they couldn't hit quality and volume. They may be able to hit volume, but they couldn't hit quality and time to delivery. And we ended up using Alibaba, and we sourced probably about 40 different suppliers in the industry. And my whole goal was I want to meet these people face to face and meet these companies and see what they're about, figure out their corporate ethos, see if we want to work with them. And in 2012, we were still working out of a living room in a garage, which is the best office you can have because you can eat, sleep, and breathe, work all day. And ended up booking a flight to China and setting up all these meetings. And we're huge on relationship building and trying to figure out, is this someone we actually want to work with? The suppliers we ended up meeting with, we've been working with for the last 6 or 7 years, the majority of them. And it took kind of this whole, how do you demystify a supply chain that you know nothing about? Well, you actually have to go there and see it and visit it and figure out how everything works out. So it's not rocket science. It's just that you just don't know what you're expecting, and so it's the uncertainty is the big question on, hey, should I wire this person money? Should I wire this firm money? We've actually never been burned on any orders we've ever done, but I think that's because it comes down to if it sounds too good to be true, it likely is. But also just go with your gut instinct as a founder or an entrepreneur, and And I think you can build checks and balances. You can Skype with them, look up their Better Business Bureau, look up like what their firm is, do reference checks. Like you should 100% do that, but you also just go with your gut. And we've loved it. And like I'm very thankful for the suppliers we have when it came through Alibaba. But the real question is, are you who I think you are? Are you the beard guy? The beard club? Oh, your beard is amazing.
He just has a beard.
No, it's incredible. You guys should see this.
Sir, you should stand up. And just,
Like seriously, let's see it.
No, it's legendary.
pretty great.
I'll get off the microphone.
So we'll just cut him off if he goes.
Got the question.
What barriers are there for small businesses from your perspective?
For us, the biggest barrier by far was financial, because we had aimed to bootstrap, and like I said, we had no history in making wine bottles, so we kind of designed our bottles. We were really happy with them, and we started taking them to UK manufacturers, and they said, yeah, we can make this for you, it's going to cost you at least £100,000, you're going to need to give us pre-orders of at least 100,000 bottles, which in the plastic bottle world is tiny, and we were kind of thinking, well, this is impossible. You know, we were hoping just to try and get this off with, you know, £10,000 and see what would happen. And that's obviously where Alibaba came in, because it allowed us to spend less, £4,000. We were able to get our molds made, so something that cost £65,000 in the UK costs £2,500 in China. I don't know how we did it, but we got the factory to make 20 bottles. They started at 5,000 and we got them down to 20, which is probably the best thing we've done in our business so far. We persuaded them that we had, you know, scope to grow past that 20. Yeah, so for us it was the financial hurdle.
That's great. You actually answered a question I was going to ask later, but I think we can, it's a good segue to that. You work with an overseas suppliers because the cost of doing a business with a local supplier manufacturer, let's say, was astronomical in terms of cost. So tell me a little bit about, so cost was one, but did you feel like the quality was any different or any less? And then also, you know, a lot of times, you know, outsourcing, you know, has a negative tone to it, that we're not producing jobs or giving jobs locally to, you know, some of the folks here who are manufacturing. How do you answer that? Do you think we're by outsourcing, is that taken away from the local economy?
Well, for us, we would have loved to have had a British manufacturer make our bottles, but they shut the door on us and they said, we can't do it unless you're going to stump up the cash. It's great now because they're now coming back to us going, oh, hey Joe, you know we had that conversation a year ago. Well, actually, we'd love to make the bottles for you. And we say, well, you know, that ship's gone. We've now got our manufacturers in China. And going back to your point about quality, for us it's the most important thing, first and foremost, particularly because wine is such a traditional industry. Everybody loves glass bottles of wine. So when we're putting them into a glass-like plastic, and we're shaping them to fit through letterboxes, we need to make sure that the bottles are really high quality. So that was always our first, you know, the most important thing for us. And honestly, before we went to China, some people in England were going, oh, you know, quality in China is not that great. That's a lie. There are so many manufacturers in China, and some are amazing quality, and some are poor quality, exactly the same as in the UK. Some are fantastic and some aren't. It's just the nature of the beast. You have to find your manufacturers, you have to talk to them, you have to speak to other suppliers, other people that they've made for, and work out which is the best one for you. Because, you know, when we put our, we use we sent out the form for RFQ. There were loads and loads of responses coming back. So we had so many to choose from. We spent such a long time whittling down to our top 5 and speaking to all of them. So the quality is without a doubt there.
And again, from your standpoint, consumer electronics, a lot of the components are overseas, but any
So we would love to manufacture LCDs and digitizers in the US, but that capability just isn't here at scale. And so one of the unique things about our company is that we can leverage the supply chain in the Asia Pac region to create American jobs here in the U.S. So we built our manufacturing capability overseas. The parts come to our 23 different distribution centers around the U.S. Our iTechs, as we call them, pick up these parts and then start servicing customers' phones in a couple hundred cities here. And the really cool thing about that is we're leveraging the manufacturing capability that already exists to create these like thousands of U.S. jobs to repair consumers' devices. So it's like a best of both worlds where we have the economies of scale on the manufacturing side, but they're also feeding like thousands of our technicians' families tonight and paying mortgage payments and sending kids to school. So that's crazy. It gives me butterflies.
So I kind of with both of you guys because I really wanted to have an American watch brand and have the manufacturing done in the States, but they don't have anything that is to scale. America doesn't really make watches, and you really do find watchmaking in the rest of the world, except for the Americas, South America and North America. It's just kind of lacking. There are a few micro brands that are made of 1, 2, or 3 people, but they make very, very small amounts of product. And I'm moving thousands of watches a year to all women across the world. So I really needed to find a supplier that could keep up with my demand. And that meant I needed to look overseas. So there wasn't really a question. Alibaba was the perfect place to go if I wanted a place where I could find a quality manufacturer. And you're right, there's great manufacturing and there's not great manufacturing. But it's the same thing. The worst manufacturer I've actually used for a series of special edition jewelry that we came out with a few years back was in New York. And they were a gold supplier. And it was just unfortunate, just the way that they did business was not how I like to do business. So all of the suppliers that I've ever used overseas have been fantastic in terms of communication, in terms of just response time, lead time on the product development, and getting me samples and getting me finished product and backing it up with warranty. Quality control is a big thing. Similar to the wine industry, the watch industry is heavily backed by tradition and by high quality. I need to make a product that is going on your wrist 24 hours, well, not if you're sleeping with your watch on, but that's going on for the majority of the day. It's getting banged, it's getting dropped, it's just being abused. So I need a quality product as a small micro brand. I need to establish that brand identity so that when this becomes big, gigantic, the Michael Kors stature, the Rolex stature, which it will, I need to make sure that those people that initially bought into this company, that have had their watch for 10, 15 years, that they're still wearing that same watch. So quality is a very big deal to me.
That's great. And a great segue to the next question, because I think quality is important to everyone, right? I mean, but how do you ensure that all the quality is implemented in your product as it's being manufactured overseas? And let's say you're a small business entrepreneur who doesn't have the means to travel to China or to be able to visit the factory as the product's being built. What would you suggest that SMEs take into account when they're working with somebody halfway across the world in terms of making sure that the product is being built with quality standards so that they don't end up with a product, palette of products that's not to their satisfaction?
Definitely, I'll start with this one because I do this all the time. It takes me 2 years to develop a watch. So from concept, drawing on paper, to the samples that I get, to the finished product. And from time to time, my suppliers do push me on saying, it's very similar to another watch that you have, it's just this minor change. Why don't you just order and have it shipped? I'm like, nope, I need a sample. And every single watch that I've ever created, I always have a sample. And unlike AJ, I've only ever been to my supplier once in 10 years. They typically come to me in the States, and I meet them at trade shows, I meet them at events. But for me, I have to have a sample, and if that sample is not production ready, then I get a second sample. Until I have a sample that is production ready, that I've tested out with my customer base, and that's why it takes so long. But if I'm going to invest $50,000 into one style of watch, it better be right. Because shipping it over here is going to be very costly. Shipping it back to get it repaired is going to be very costly. and the downtime, and along with marketing your product and having the launch of it, it just pushes everything back. So you do it right the first time. What do they say? Measure twice and cut once, right? So measure 3 times, 4 times, and then cut once.
Good advice. AJ? Joe, anything on that?
Yeah, so we just start out small. You don't have to start out with massive orders. Start out small, get samples. When we first started working with our suppliers, we didn't have the trade assurance, which is the most amazing program ever. So when we would be doing our initial orders, Western Union had a $2,000 limit at the time, and so we'd do a $7,000 order, but we'd have to do 3.5 separate $2,000 orders to pay up to that. We were never burned on that, but there wasn't this 100% positive, hey, this product's going to be delivered at the quality we want. But this was 3 years before trade assurance, so I'd just use trade assurance, and that makes it so easy for everyone who's a small business owner to start having confidence in the system, because Alibaba has your back on that, which is amazing. But just trust your gut, start small, and then cast a wide net, work with as many suppliers as you possibly can, and distill it down one after another into exactly what you're looking for, and if their values and their quality matches your standards.
Yeah, trade assurance is the answer for us.
And you started your business recently.
We only, back end of last year, so trade assurance was fully up and running. And for us, I've already said it about 5 times, money was a massive issue for us. So we had one stab at it, and if the portals came back, incorrectly designed or of a poor quality or never turned up at all, then without trade assurance, we would never have done it, because I was sat in my office in London talking to people literally on the other side of the world. So trade assurance just gave us, as early stage entrepreneurs with tiny budgets, just that assurance that the money that we were investing in the product was going to be a good investment.
Great. So last question, then we're going to open it up to some Q&A here. I think, again, great stories, and then the fact that you guys have been able to grow an idea to reality is great. I think, one, we want to know what's next for the Abingdon company, for iCrack, for Garçon Lens. But at the same time, because we have a lot of folks here who are running businesses, I think they'll love to get some tips from you in terms of how are you marketing your business? How are you acquiring customers? And any tips that you can share that they can benefit from, with the internet, social media, any tips you can share there would be great. Start with you, Abingdon.
What's next for the Abingdon company? I am going to be coming out. We have 5 new styles that we're going to be developing for the tactical world, for the equestrian world, the sailing world. Another dive watch will be released, and we're really kind of branching out to a lot more women that just do these crazy things. And I was talking with a gentleman today who, his girlfriend is a nurse, and he gets her a watch almost every year. And nurses and nail salonists are actually our top 2 customers, funny enough. So strong watches for more groups of women that just go through their products, because they're hard on it. I mean, we all are. So we're coming out with more of those, and then I'm also getting into the smartwatch world. And the smartwatch is something that a lot of people were saying, oh, that's going to kill your business. And I don't think so. I think if the Abingdon company came out with an app to supplement what they're using their Abingdon watch for, then they can have their Apple Watch or their Samsung watch, and then when they go diving, they can't wear an Apple Watch at 200 feet under the ocean, so that's where they wear their Abingdon watch. But when they want to check out tides or when they want to navigate by stars, they can use an app right on their Apple Watch. And when they're flying or when they're outside in the wilderness and they have no data, well, then their Abingdon watch is working and it has their vibrating alarm and their flashlight on it, things like that. So that's really what's next for the Abingdon company. We're going to embrace the smart technology for sure and let it be an asset, something that's just goes right in line, right in sync with the product. For the second part of your question, which was how do we market it?
How are you selling your product today? Is it online only, and are you also selling to retailers? And what are some of the steps you're taking in terms of marketing your product and getting new customers?
So we market in 3 ways. We're pretty even keeled between all 3 platforms. We do have a website, theabingdonco.com, and we do about 33% of our business through online sales. That also does include our Amazon store and some of the other platforms that are out there for e-commerce. The second avenue is our brick and mortar retailers. We have a retailer network all around the world, and that is another 33% of our business roughly. And then our last one, which is it's the most fun, it's my favorite, are all the trade shows. We go to the Kentucky Derby, we go to NASCAR races, we go to aviation shows, we go to dive shows and boating shows, and it's where people can handle a product, people will utilize it, they'll test the product right there, and we get a lot of customers that come back. We always offer free battery changes at any show, so if you do have a watch, you always come back to our booth, and then you buy something else while you're getting your battery changed. You get a new strap. So that's another part of our business that is, I think, very, very effective, because having that one-on-one, just like you guys have read all sorts of stories and seen all sorts of videos on the website and through the programs here, but listening to us talk about it brings a whole other element to it. So we like to have that interaction with all of our customers, and even all my salespeople, they all do something adventurous. So it's super fun to hear them just rap back and forth with our customer base.
Great. Thank you.
Awesome. So one of our thesis on our company is that every new generation of technology that comes out, your life actually gets more complex, not less complex. And so going off the watch example, your smartwatch is actually makes your life more complicated than your analog watch. Your smartphone makes your life more complicated than your feature phone. Your smart home lights, setting up different rooms, colors, that's more complicated than just flipping a light switch on and off. And there's this massive gap between technology when you buy it and technology when it just works. And so one of the things that we're doing is we take this couple thousand technician network strong footprint we have, and then how do we start putting that into other verticals? So we're looking at IoT installation, smart home installation. And we have this idea that given that we built this on-demand network, if we can build this solution where anywhere on Earth you have a problem with your hardware or your software, you press a button, we send someone to show up and solve that. I think that that's a really cool world to live in, where your Wi-Fi stops working, you break your smartphone, or you want to start installing smart home appliances, your Google Home, Alexa, etc. And so we just want to build this world where technology is easy, you press a button, we show up, and we're there. And I that seems like an awesome world to live in, because you don't have to worry about technology making your life more complicated.
I feel like we're almost there. We're not too far from that.
I hope we're almost.
I can order pizza through my Amazon.
Have you done it though?
I have. Pizza Hut, I think, is added or integrated with it. Yes.
Wait, that's amazing. Raise your hand if you have any smart home products like Google Home, Alexa. All right, that's awesome. Yeah, so we're in the next 2 quarters, we're integrating with a couple large OEMs where you're going on and buying a product, and we're going to be the ones that show up and install it in your homes. We're already in a couple 100,000 homes a year, so I'm excited to start doing smart homes. It's something I'm passionate in.
Fantastic. And Joe, what's next for Garcon Wines? And share some tips and secrets on how you plan to sell and some of your marketing strategies.
Next for Garcon, so we're in talks with some of the biggest winemakers in the world about partnering up with them to deliver their wines hassle-free through front doors across Europe. We're also looking into bricks and mortar. Our bottles are incredibly weight and space saving, so they're almost 70% lighter than the glass bottle, and they also save over 50% shelf space for the retailer. So whether you're a consumer and you want to go to a music festival, to the beach, and you want to pick up a 4-pack of wine or a 6-pack of wine, that's what we're looking to do with retailers. A tip with regards to marketing, we've always been quite lucky, because the difficulty of having a traditional industry and trying to innovate within that, whilst it throws up some difficulties, is actually also a blessing, because when you do it, people are genuinely interested. So we have always worked the press really, really well, and got a load of free PR nationally and internationally, and on radio and on TV. So that's always worked really well for us.
Great. All right, thank you guys. So we're running short on time, so we'll take a couple of questions. Anyone has any questions? All right, we'll do one from the young man right here, because I have to.
How did you narrow down your suppliers? how did you figure out who's going to supply?
Okay, for them? And then, well, first of all, how old are you?
I'm 14.
14, what's your name?
Conrad Hamilton.
I love that. It's like a young entrepreneur.
I have a firework business, and I'm in Lubbock, Texas right now. But I want to like spread over Texas, and yeah.
So I actually just looked at getting my pyrotechnics license in California. It's an incredibly complex procedure. It takes years of like working under a professional firework producer and stuff. Are you doing 8-inch mortar shells by chance?
8-inch? I don't think so, but I think I'm doing a little bit smaller. We have this one firework called the Fortress, and I mean, it's huge.
That's so cool. Yeah, so I'd like get references. Alibaba has great. You can click on like the supplier profile. You can look up their business number, which is their equivalent of their like EIN. You have to go off like how many people have they worked with? Would they give you references for other people they've worked with? Go off your gut, but like that's so awesome. I'll buy fireworks from you next time I'm in Texas. Lubbock, Texas.
There you go. That's awesome.
For me, the way I narrowed down my suppliers, when I first put in watches, so many of them for ladies' watches, they're very, very tiny. And I needed a lot of function built into my watches, so I actually needed to search for men's watches because the type of watch I was making was only made for men. So that gave me a huge amount of options. However, there were some that were $5 a piece to make and some that were $500 a piece to make. So I needed to err towards a higher quality. So I eliminated the ones that were the $5 and $10 pieces that had plastic straps or that had like silicone wraps, straps and things like that. That got rid of a ton. So just the search function on the website is a way to limit down your suppliers. The next thing I did is after I contacted them, I wanted to find out how they communicate back. How good is their English? My Chinese is horrible. So, my Swiss is, it's like a high German in Switzerland. That's even worse. I do speak French and Spanish, so that was all right for those suppliers that I reached out to. But I definitely needed an English supplier, an English-speaking supplier. So how well they communicated, because I knew this was going to be a long-term relationship. So I needed to be able to communicate really well. And then the next one was, what were their references? Who were the products that they were making for other clients? I actually went out and bought some of those products, and I held them, and I, tested them out on myself and said, okay, this is a pretty high quality. It's not breaking on me after a couple months. But this was a long due process that I did, and for those products that didn't come, up to the caliber that I wanted, I eliminated those suppliers. So I just weeded it down little by little by little. And I ended up with about 4 suppliers initially, and right now I have over 10. But just 4 for packaging and watches. So that's how I did it.
Fantastic. All right, one more question. And we can wrap it up. Let's go over here.
Hi. One of the takeaways I got from Jack yesterday was the Chinese market is really interested in purchasing American products. So if I have a California company that's producing a product that I'm having made in China and selling it in China, is that an issue as an American product?
It's more about the brand, and I think we had a session earlier where we had talked about that. So yeah, sure. I mean, I think they're interested, and if you attended the session in the morning that Brian Wong gave, he talked about some of the categories that Chinese consumers are interested in. Things like agriculture, multi-supplement vitamins, and mother and baby type of products. And made in the U.S. Again, if the product itself isn't necessarily made in the U.S., but it's a U.S. brand, it's a known brand, it's a brand that people trust, they'll be interested in that. So sure, and again, I think Steve Koenig in the morning kind of gave an example. He said, look at iPhone, right? I mean, it's essentially Apple is an American brand. It's designed in Cupertino, California, but it's made in China. But there's more iPhone users in China than might be in the U.S. right now. So it depends on the brand. Don't let that stop you. But I would say certainly to speak with one of the Tmall Global folks over there, let them know about your business, and see what they can do for you. Perfect. All right, so we're going to wrap this up. Thank you again. Let's give a round of applause here. All right, so now we're going to shift gears a little bit. We've talked about products a lot. We've talked about different ways to filtering them and how you can source using Alibaba. But a good product usually needs a great supplier. So I want to bring on stage a couple of suppliers that we flew in all the way from China. Both have been on the Alibaba platform for well over a decade. The first supplier, his name is Eddie Yang. He's the founder and CEO of Guangzhou Beaumarais Stationery Limited. Now, Eddie's been a supplier for more than a decade. He has a range of products in different categories, but one thing that he does is he plays a role of an advocate and an influencer and an ambassador in his hometown in China for new businesses wanting to get started. So it's great to have him here. Eddie, please come up to the stage. All right, next we have Rain So. She's the founder and CEO of Rain So Healthcare Products. Rain's been an Alibaba supplier for over 14 years. She's a gold supplier. Her company designs and manufactures and sells magnetic jewelry products to countries such as the US, Germany, Canada, and more. So let's have Rain come on. Hi, Rain. All right, so as we're talking about product sourcing with the example of Susie, our 10-year-old entrepreneur, and we have a 14-year-old entrepreneur in the making, business owner in the making soon. It all comes up with an idea, and then it turns into a product. And you guys can essentially you represent some of the suppliers that we have on Alibaba, and you work with a lot of small and medium enterprises. So let's start off by tell us a little bit about yourself, your company, and specifically your products.
Okay, thank you. I imagine if I'm at his age, I can use Alibaba now. Oh my God! After 15 years, I'm someone else. Okay, just joke. My name is Eddie. I come from China 2 days ago, but I have been in Alibaba Gold supplier for 15 years. I use Alibaba for 15 years, and 15 years ago I have a job in China. At that time, I can win $500 a month. That's a big amount at that time. So when I want to quit my job and start my business to sell my products through Alibaba, my father is very angry. He's talking to me, "You are crazy. You want to expect more from your current job." But I said, I found a way to contact the customer all over the world. That's a big opportunity at that time. Okay. So in 15 years, I think we grew a lot. We, at the beginning we have only 2 persons, and now we have 200. And at the beginning, the first year turnover is only $200,000 US, and now it's come to $10 million US. Wow. Okay. And now we make a lot of packaging. So I think there's also some of my clients in the future. If you need packaging, come to me. I have also presented some of my product in the Alibaba.com booth.
We have your name there, so I'm sure they'll make a note of that. Thank you. Ray, tell us a little bit about yourself, your company, and your products, please.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Rain So from Rain So Healthcare Jewelry, and our company located in Guangzhou, which is only 2 hours from Hong Kong. And this is a quite good industrial area for jewelry. And we mainly, for over 15 years, we focus on magnetic jewelry production, design, and sell. And this magnetic bracelet is good for our health. It can stimulate our blood circulation and can really good for release the painful for muscle and muscle painful of shoulder and back. Especially when you wear after one day, you will feel the arthritic pain is released. I actually start, believe it or not, I started to use Alibaba.com in 1999. And it was really happened because I was attending Canton Fair. And when I passed the Alibaba booth, I saw Jack Ma's handing in my hand a poster of Alibaba.com. And then I was jumping into my mind, I know there is a platform called Alibaba.com. And then when I go back, I check, but there's nothing on it. And then my own business started 2003, and that idea comes to me again, and then I start to put my own things on it. And I think that my first order is only when I put my things on it, I get within 1 month. That is a really big order for me at that moment. It's over 200,000 US dollar per order. And I still remember I was in a holiday and I got a phone call, and then we confirmed the order. That's really fast. And I'm a regret that I didn't took a photo with Jack Ma when he handled in the poster from Alibaba. But luckily, after 7 years, it's 2010, he visited our company because we really did a great job on Alibaba. And at that time, I started from one person. That time is 30 people already. And now we had 44 people in office, and our factory we have 28 workers, roughly. Yeah.
Fantastic. So 1999, you saw Jack Ma at the Alibaba booth at the Canton Fair handing out posters.
Yes.
So we've come far in the last 18 years. That's great. All right, so tell us, I mean, obviously you guys have been on the platform for many years now. Tell us about your average customer, the size of their business, and their location.
Okay, currently we work with some big companies, they're big brand names like Canon, for the camera. We make cases for Canon. We make cases for Philips, for the Philips shaver, for the man. And we also make cases for TomTom, it's one of the biggest GPS devices supplier. But also we would like to work with some small companies, small business, because when we work with small buyers, they are more creative, they are more flexible. Sometimes they come to the great idea, great product, they come to us, they want to packaging solutions, so they are very creative. It's like you do the cooking. You can communicate with them, you can give their suggestion according to my experience, how to make the packaging better, how to make the packaging more environmental friendly, how to make the packaging convenient for use. So they are willing to listen to you. So that's why I also work with a lot of small business, small buyers.
Got it. So while you're working with guys like Canon, Philips, and TomTom, you prefer to work with small businesses also, not just bigger guys?
Yes, of course.
Okay, fantastic. Wayne, how about yourself?
Our customer actually has two kinds. One kind is same as Eddie. We had some brands order from us, like in US, like Walgreens, QVC, HSN. They selling by TV shopping. And why we can work with them is because we have our own designer. He's Germany, and we have our own factory. And factory scale, it's we can produce over 40,000 pieces a month bracelet. So, and also we can pass all the tests, whatever the company system test or the production itself, the test for jewelries. And now actually we're looking for another kind of small business. We had more and more customers. They buy from us and they sell on Amazon, and they are quite good. They are selling a lot actually. The reason is we make a lot of stock for them, and we will invest for the stock. And we had a lot of experience from B2B market, and we will give some advice which kind of bracelet they took and they can sell better. So yeah, if you have interest, talk to me. Our booth is outside.
Fantastic. So you're working with a lot of resellers, sounds like, along with larger vendors. I believe in the last session you had mentioned Walgreens, QVC,
Yeah.
and Home Shopping Network was the other one.
Yeah.
Fantastic. All right, so let's switch gears a little bit. We've talked about trade assurance a lot. We talked about it in the case study and then the last session. And Eddie, you've been a gold supplier on Alibaba.com for over 10 years. You've been a supplier for a lot longer than that. As a supplier who accepts trade assurance, tell me what it means to you in working with buyers across in the U.S. and other parts of the world.
I think when we make business, the first thing is trust. How to create the trust is because the communication. So communication, I think, is very important because sometimes we have some inquiries sent from the buyers. Only a few words, it's not very clear, and we reply to the inquiry, but there's no response. So that's create a feeling this buyer is not serious. So if you want to find a good supplier, please also try to give more information to your suppliers. Introduce yourself, introduce your company, introduce your idea. how would you like the product to be. So we are more clear about yourself and more clear about your idea, then we can do necessary to help you to create from your idea to the real product.
Fantastic. So in a way, trade assurance can be a bridge between you and your buyers and helping them trust you more.
Of course, the trade assurance, sometimes it's very difficult to create the trust at the beginning. Sometimes I also think if I'm a buyer in America, how I can choose my supplier. It's sometimes I feel very risky. We don't know each other. We don't see each other. We have never been to China sometimes. How I can pay a lot of money to this guy? If this guy run away, take money, what I can do? Especially when I just start my business, then what I do? Okay, so I always try to create the trust at the very beginning. I send pictures of my company, my production, even send the videos, even send the reference of the company what we cooperate now. But it's still very difficult. Yeah. So with trust assurance, it's much easier. So if you don't trust me, okay, you can trust Alibaba. You pay Alibaba. If you don't receive the goods, good quality, you can take the money back from Alibaba. So I think that's a very good program. That's a good product from Alibaba.
Got it. And again, just to kind of add to that, even though they can get their money back from Alibaba, the supplier system is still very rank-based. So in case a supplier is not performing to the standards, sure, the buyer can get their money compensated that they're out, but it also affects you as a supplier, right, in your rankings. So if you're not performing to the right standards, it affects you and your rankings as well, right?
Of course, for me, I always take responsibility if I do some mistake. Try to, do some homework. Try to, just the question from the young gentleman. Try to narrow the supplier. So at the very beginning, okay, and have a good communication with your supplier. Then you will find solutions.
Fantastic. So the next question is for Rain. Rain, as a global supplier and manufacturer, what's important to you when you're working with buyers from overseas? So we kind of had this question, but it's more reverse now. We asked the three panelists before you, what's important to you when you're looking for a supplier. But as a supplier, what are you looking for when you're looking to work with overseas buyers?
For the buyers, if you are looking for our suppliers, I have to tell the truth that I'm also picking up good buyers. And I would like to work with people who has a really clear idea. And I would like to work with the people who get also quick feedback. And also, that is very important, is again about the communication. Send us email, whatever you want. I can give a small example. I actually arrived in LA June 2nd. I visited one of my customers. He is 70 years old already, and he's retired, and he's really suffered by his diabetes, and he has a very serious surgical about the feet. And when I met him, 1 month before, because he has suffered by his diabetes, so he has idea about why I better have an idea. I have a bracelet, and then on the bracelet, writing what my allergy, my ID, my doctor information, and my own information on it. And then I can wear it as a jewelry and also all the information on it. And then when I have a problem, I go to the doctor, and the doctor can see it clearly, got all the information, and can save the time. Then he just wrote an email to us and sent us what he wants. And then we create the idea, and we put into a real production, the 3D or wax, within 1 week. And we sent to him. And he gave us very fast feedback. And then after another week, we sent him the real sample, which is great. And when I visited him, he's so happy, and he has his own website, and he started to sell already. And I believe, and he is happy, and I believe he is going to have a good, very nice business, because he told me clearly what he needs, and we react also very fast. I think this is very important for a buyer.
No, that's great, and I think it kind of speaks volumes too, because that's also important for buyers. They want suppliers who can respond quickly, and I think that's a great example, of person's creating medical bracelets and they're selling them locally in the LA area, but it also shows that you have a great relationship with your buyers where you're actually visiting them when you're coming.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, mostly I do.
Fantastic. So, speaking with a lot of buyers, sometimes most of the concerns that they usually have when working with overseas suppliers are things like communication, which we just talked about, safe payments, logistics, trust. As a manufacturer based in China, how do you make sure you address these concerns? Eddie, we'll start with you.
Okay, communication, just now as mentioned, is very important. In order to have good communication, we take my example. We have 50 sales. They are very good, get good at English. They can communicate. They can communicate with English. They can write English. They can speak English very well. So they also worked, from 8 o'clock in the morning to 10 o'clock in the evening because of the time difference. Yeah. So we offer the good service to guarantee we have good communication with our clients. About safety payment, I think the trade assurance is quite good solution. We have a lot of options for payment, but trade assurance is a good one, especially when you just start business with your new supplier. It can be a guarantee. About logistics, it's very easy. At the beginning, I don't want to talk about it, but because I think it's very easy. I just talked, outside with some Americans. They say, "Oh, it's not easy." So, okay. Now we are the Chinese supplier, but we can offer the full service. We can even deliver the goods to your hands directly. From our factory in China to America to your warehouse, no problem. It's very easy. We can offer the full service for that.
Fantastic. So, in terms of what about you? We'd love to hear from you on that as well.
For the communication wise, you can see everybody we speak English, and we are common people in China. We're not somebody special. And in our office, it's the same. Our staff is well educated, and we have to start learning English from middle school. So everybody could speak fluently English. And for the time-wise, we actually use CRM system, and our staff, everybody use the smartphone. We can reply the email all the time. So there is almost no time differences. So you can get your reply within 8 hours when you send an inquiry to us, and within that 8 hours, you got it. And for the payment, I think it's really a lot of options. We accept PayPal, Western Union, bank transfer, trade assurance, and even I have a Bank of America account. It's very easy for everybody. And if you have other options, you just let me know. We just try to figure it out. And for the logistics, same as Eddie said, we accept FOB terms, CNF, CFF terms, and most of my items is more we send by UPS or FedEx. It's door-to-door service. We can even help to clear the custom, pay the duty, everything. When you receive it, it's clear. It's very easy.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
So, I think, at the end of the day, it really started off at that, and then, you just mentioned that as well. It can be a true end-to-end solution. You're helping them with all aspects. Whether it's customizations, whether it's payments, whether it's logistics. And again, it may seem easy, but, I think logistics is usually one of the main concerns for a lot of folks here. So, we're gonna jump into Q&A. I think we're running really short on time, so I'm only gonna take about 2 questions. Anyone has any questions? Oh, fantastic. There we go.
Hi, thank you for that. A couple things. I'm an intellectual property patent attorney, and I teach international. Half my students are from China. But I'm also disabled 9 years ago, so I went to law school twice. So I advise pro bono for people with veteran spinal cord injury in the U.S., but I also advise a lot of side hustles, small business, we call them gig, and they want to find suppliers in China. But their concern is, how do I know they will not steal my idea? So I know the American legal answer to that, or it's all dependent on the situation, but what is your answer to that?
Okay, that's a question about IP.
IP?
Okay. Well, take myself as an example. Some clients, they do have lot of concern on it. Okay, before we start the business, before we start cooperation, normally we can sign an agreement, non-disclosure.
NDA.
Disclosure agreement on that. And in case you find your supplier steal your idea or post your product on Alibaba, for example, it's very easy. You just complain that to Alibaba, and I'm sure this supplier cannot do that anymore. And also, if I do that, we have certain point every year for supplier. I think it's about 12 or 24 points. If I have a mistake, then Alibaba will deduct some points from my company. If the point is gone, then I cannot be a Alibaba supplier anymore. So I think this can be maybe a question answer to you.
Yeah, that's actually helpful.
Yeah, so I think Eddie gave a great example of some of the things that we do as a site, but as an entrepreneur, just like Abington said, you want to make sure you do your due diligence, and if you're going to be selling your product, whether it's in the U.S. or it's in China, you're getting a source in China, you want to file for IP protection, your patent in different areas. So yeah, you can, and we take it very seriously. Jack Ma said it last night. It doesn't matter if you're a large brand, a medium brand, or a small brand. We know your intellectual property is important, and we want to make sure we protect it. And we will take storefronts down and remove suppliers from our site, if we find them, stealing an idea or copyrighted images and whatnot. We actually have a team here in the marketplace, the IP team. So I definitely suggest after the session, speak with them, and they can give you more details on how we take it really seriously. We ensure that products are not stolen and it's property. All right, one more question. Right there.
Actually, Eddie, I met you before, and we went back and forth on a project that I had. We didn't end up doing an order from you, but I do just want to validate Eddie's company and their team as being incredibly responsive and very easy to deal with. You're welcome. Also, on top of that, I would like to say in terms of the IP section, I do have a question, but please, if you're doing an NDA, it's an NDA-NC, which is a non-disclosure agreement with a non-circumvent. You want to have an NDA-NC and have it in English and in Chinese, and if at all possible, use a Chinese legal firm to do the translation and to present that document to your suppliers, because that means you have a Chinese legal firm that is right there on the ground with your suppliers. It's really important. So the question is this, what are you guys doing these days right now to fight off the increased manufacturing cost? I know that the cost of labor, the cost of materials and everything, and I've seen a lot of companies, a lot of factories move from the south of China and go into Qingdao and different places. What are you guys doing to help us be able to keep a margin by not having the cost of goods go up so high on our end with you?
First, I just want to ask one question. What's your company name? I would like to give more discount next time.
You're very welcome. It's Volcano LLC. And we were talking about
okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, I think Ray will answer your question.
Because I would like to answer the question, because for the jewelry, we really suffer about the cost, because now our new government is control about the environment, pollution. So for jewelry, we had a little bit of pollution, so we had to really pay attention and get higher cost. So what my solution is, first I use more and more, machine. We create together with a jewelry machine factory, and we design some machine which can be done half labor. One people can take care of 4 machines. Before it's one people only do one with.
You're automating a lot.
Yeah, automatically to reduce some workers. This is first what we did. Second is for jewelry we put a lot of designs on this. It's not China now only do what they want us to do. We can create together something, your brand, and we put the more technique inside and make the products get more profit, which is good for you and good for us. We actually, China now, as a factory, we are now really compare with Vietnam or Cambodia the cost. So compare with them, we are not the cheapest. So what we did is we high quality design and more automatic. This is what I did. So now our customers are quite happy about me because we can put more production and our quality is better and we can really quickly respond their designs. So yeah, they even make more profit on our products. I hope that answered your question.
And again, Eddie and Rain will be here, so if you didn't get a chance to ask your question, approach them. And again, I want to thank you guys. Let's give a round of applause. I know we're going a little bit over, but one of the great things about here is, we're learning a lot about small and medium enterprises, but we're also excited about the sponsors that we have. And again, this wouldn't be possible if our sponsors weren't here. So next, I want to invite Deborah Lodge, the Managing Director of Global Markets China Solution for HSBC, and she's going to talk a little bit about the rise of the renminbi and what it means for trade.
This is your okay. Somebody's going. Okay. Well, look, I'm standing between you guys having a beer or a glass of wine, so I'm not in an enviable position, unfortunately. So for those of you that have stayed, thank you so much. And what I want to do today is just talk a little bit about the Chinese local currency renminbi. So for those of you that don't really know HSBC that well, and I'm going to shamelessly do a 30-second advert. Although we might not be one of the biggest banks here, we certainly are one of the biggest international banks in the world. And in China, we are the biggest international bank. And I will tell you, in China, size matters. If you are an institution that doesn't have size, you don't get closeness to the regulators, you don't have the ability to negotiate with the regulators for certain things that your clients want to do. So we take China really seriously. I'm very fortunate, you can probably tell, I'm not from the States, but I am based in New York. So I'm based on the trading room floor in New York, living and dreaming about the Chinese currency. So my responsibility is to advise Chinese importers, exporters, and also US companies, companies across the Americas that are dealing with China. So what can I tell you about the currency? I was lucky to be in Shanghai last week, and I as a woman does, I'm in a car on the way to see a client, I'm with a friend, and I said, wow, those shoes are great. And she looked at me and started laughing and said, Deborah, Alibaba, you order in the morning and you get them in the afternoon. Why don't you do it in the hotel? And I'm like, what? You don't pay extra for this? No. And you don't have to tip the person that delivers them? No. And I'm like, wow, can you imagine in the States having that kind of service and especially not having to tip someone? So, where am I going on this? We've heard from some great speakers today. We've heard about all this technology, but there's one little part that you, as companies dealing with China, as you grow, you need to be aware of the Chinese currency renminbi. So it's as David Albany from UPS said to us all this morning. Go local, be aware of the market, and that's what I'm here to advise you all today about. Understand the market, understand the currency. I'm not asking everybody to be a currency expert. We in finance tend to use all words and make it complicated. I want to be simple today and just point out one or two things that really you should be aware of, because I think as your company grows, you'll find this very interesting. So, if we look at renminbi, the local currency, let me just tell you a tiny bit about it. If you're dealing in the offshore market, so you're not in China, you're offshore, you're dealing in the CNH market, let me tell you that we in the States, we are trading billions of dollars worth of that currency. Why we're trading billions of dollars worth? Because our corporate clients are using that currency to pay for goods that they've bought from China, and the exporters, they invoice some of their clients in renminbi and collect renminbi instead. So this is something that's growing and growing. I will tell you that we trade more renminbi than any other Asian Pacific currency, apart from the Japanese yen. So I want to give you an idea about size here. So what else can I tell you about this currency? 101 countries make renminbi payments into China and Hong Kong already. 101 countries, okay? 3 years ago, only 3 central banks held renminbi in their portfolio. And my statistics, by the way, are from the end of 2016, so they'll be even larger now. We now have 32 central banks and growing that are holding renminbi. So anybody that says to you, oh, no, everything's still done in dollars, the world revolves around dollars, let me tell you, it doesn't. And the renminbi is becoming a currency that's used more and more. So, how can you use this currency? And why can you use this currency? Because that's one thing that people say to me, and I've had a lot of conversations here, and I've been told, no, government doesn't allow it, no, I can't do this, I can't do that. Well, the watershed was 2013 when the regulators made a change that allows anything to do with goods and services. You can pay renminbi into China and you can receive renminbi from China. So that really, really, really was the turning point. So let me just share with you a couple more things about the renminbi. This currency is depreciating. Okay, so what does that actually mean? What that means is over time, you will get more renminbi to the US dollar. So at the moment, it's trading about 6.82 to the US dollar. We at HSBC are forecasting by the end of the year, it will be 6.9 to the dollar, and by end of 2018, it will be 6.71 to the dollar. Okay, so you can see that we're on a depreciating trend. So again, what does that mean to you guys as importers and exporters? As an exporter, if you are pricing in US dollars, think about it. Over time, anybody's buying your goods have to use more renminbi to actually buy $1. Okay, so potentially, and I say potentially here, your goods could become too expensive. Okay, potentially. So what does it mean to the importers? What it means to the importers is every dollar, again, over time, that you're sending to your suppliers, they are getting more renminbi for that $1. Okay? So you, as a company, might be leaving money on the table. So those are the two things that I actually want to plant in your head about how companies are using this currency. Let me just give you two very, very little short examples here, because I know we're running out of time. One of our clients, the biggest Halloween costume manufacturer in the States, decided at the beginning of this year to pay all of their suppliers in renminbi. Okay? A lot of negotiation, yes, but they were very committed to doing this. So they have shared with me already they've saved 4% on their bottom line. Okay? So for them it was about streamlining and saving money using the currency. I had a gentleman from Canada, an exporter, come over to me and say, Deborah, I invoice in US dollars. Every so often, and if you're from China in this room, you will know this, there is a little blip in the regulations and some things become a little bit more difficult to do. You know, and this is temporary, but it